10 shocking proofs that time travelers might be real. In the tapestry of history, some threads simply don't match the weave. We think we know the past, but what if unseen visitors have already walked among us? Today, we investigate 10 shocking proofs that suggest time travelers might be real. These aren't tales of science fiction, they are verifiable events, documented photos, and concrete evidence. Prepare to question everything you thought you knew about history. Case 1. The man who wore a modern watch in 1941. At an event celebrating a newly rebuilt bridge, one spectator stood remarkably out of sync. Observe his attire: a modern-style t-shirt, a portable camera, and most notably, a wristwatch resembling contemporary designs. His glasses are distinctively non-period, and the watch simply didn't exist in that decade. Skeptics argue it could be a very early prototype, or simply a common style we misremember. But how do you explain a camera so compact and a timepiece so advanced, 40 years ahead of schedule? The mystery deepens, suggesting a temporary tourist from the future. Our second anomaly comes from the silent film era, Charlie Chaplin's The Circus from 1928. During a scene where a crowd gathers, one woman clearly holds an object to her ear. It bears an uncanny resemblance to a modern mobile phone, decades before the concept even solidified. The obvious counterpoint suggests it's merely a hearing aid, or perhaps an old-fashioned snuff box. Yet, the way she interacts with it, the posture, the mannerisms, screams modern communication. Is it possible she was practicing a future conversation? Or is history playing a very sophisticated trick on us? Next, we jump to 1870, to a photo capturing the opening of a new covered bridge in Goldbridge, Canada. Amidst the formal Victorian attire, one gentleman stands out significantly. His shirt features graphics and stitching inconsistent with mid-19th century tailoring. The skeptical view suggests these are merely optical illusions created by the slow film development process. However, the consistency of the print pattern across his chest strongly suggests deliberate modern iconography. He looks like he just stepped off a modern beach and into a time warp. Another tourist, perhaps, lost in the wrong century? Moving from visual evidence to documented testimony, we encounter the enigma of John Titor. Between 2000 and 2001, Titor claimed to be an American soldier sent back to 1975 to retrieve an IBM 5100 computer. He provided schematics for his time displacement unit and offered surprisingly accurate predictions about future events. His most notable prediction concerned a devastating civil war in the US, starting around 2004, escalating by 2015. Of course, the predicted apocalyptic events never materialized, leading many to dismiss him as an elaborate hoax. But why include so much detail, including complex physics about the many worlds interpretation, if it was just a prank? Or perhaps, we are living in the timeline he successfully diverted. The enigma of John Titor remains a fascinating, if unsettling, chapter in time travel lore. Few minds touch the future like Nikola Tesla, and his classified work might hold temporal secrets. Declassified or rumored documents suggest Tesla was obsessed with resonance and manipulating the fabric of space-time. The famous Philadelphia experiment, often linked to him, involved rendering a ship invisible and perhaps displacing it through time. Official records strongly deny any temporal component, attributing failures to electrical surges and equipment malfunction. However, Tesla himself reportedly spoke of objects briefly vanishing and reappearing during high-frequency tests. Was the genius merely pushing electrical boundaries? Or was he accidentally brushing against the mechanisms of time? The secrets of his final years remain locked away in governmental vaults. Our fifth piece of evidence involves an artifact from Mesopotamia that defies its supposed age. Discovered in 1936, the Baghdad Battery is a collection of clay jars containing a copper cylinder and an iron rod. When filled with an electrolyte like grape juice or vinegar, these simple objects generate a measurable electric current. Ancient texts suggest electricity was used for electroplating intricate gold designs onto silver artifacts. Skeptics maintain it was simply used for storing scrolls, or perhaps religious ritual storage. But is it truly a coincidence that the required components for a battery existed 2,000 years too early? A small device hinting at lost technology, or perhaps forgotten science from an unexpected visitor. Perhaps the most concrete piece of evidence lies buried deep within the earth, an artifact too advanced for its resting place. In 2008, during the exploration of a Ming Dynasty tomb, researchers found an object that immediately raised alarms. It was a small ring, approximately the size of a modern watch, showing clear signs of advanced metallurgy and precision machining. Experts dated the tomb to the Ming Dynasty, over 400 years ago, making the object an absolute anachronism. The official explanation suggested it was merely a ring that coincidentally resembled modern machinery, perhaps a hoax by workers, but the level of microengineering required to create such precise components was impossible for that era. If it wasn't made then, it must have arrived from somewhere else, or someone else. World War II was a crucible of rapid technological advancement, but some sightings defy logic. Pilot reports from both the Allied and Axis forces spoke of Foo Fighters' small, rapidly moving metallic orbs. These were not known aircraft. They performed maneuvers that broke the laws of known aerodynamics at the time. Skeptics quickly categorized them as ball lightning or mass hallucination due to extreme stress and exhaustion. Yet, multiple credible military personnel documented these objects with radar confirmation in some cases. Were these advanced, secret terrestrial weapons? Or were they reconnaissance probes sent from a technologically superior future? The skies of the 1,940 seconds may have hosted more than just bombers. Beyond specific events, history is littered with out-of-place artifacts, or O-parts. Take the famous Antikythera mechanism, a device from ancient Greece that functioned as a complex astronomical computer. Its internal complexity rivals clockwork engineering from the 18th century, 1,000 years too early. Skeptics attribute these to isolated, brilliant geniuses whose work was lost to time, masterpieces of ancient engineering. But what about the Baghdad battery? A clay jar with copper cylinders found near Baghdad, suggestive of galvanic cells? The theory posits they were used for electroplating gold onto silver technology we claim to have rediscovered much later. These artifacts suggest pockets of advanced knowledge that either vanished or were introduced from elsewhere. Were these early attempts at time travel technology that failed spectacularly, or messages left behind? We return to photographs, the supposed ironclad records of the past, and examine another common glitch. Consider this shot from the 1,950 seconds, showing construction workers on a site. One worker, clearly positioned in the background, seems to be wearing a distinctly modern hoodie. The skeptical explanation is that this is just an unusual style of jacket from the period, perhaps a rare athletic wear prototype, but the texture and the drawstring hood are features that became ubiquitous decades later. It's a momentary slip, a brief exposure of a future resident observing our past efforts. These small errors in the historical record accumulate into a disturbing pattern. If the evidence feels circumstantial, physics offers us a compelling theoretical foundation for time travel. Einstein's equations already describe the possibility of closed time-like curves, or CTCs, through immense gravity. The creation of a traversable wormhole, a shortcut through space-time, remains the most popular theoretical mechanism. However, this requires exotic matter with negative energy density, something we have yet to manufacture reliably. Physicist Kip Thorne has shown that mathematically, the structure can hold, provided these conditions are met. If time travel is mathematically possible, the question shifts from if to when, or perhaps, when did they arrive? The evidence we've seen isn't random noise. It's the subtle byproduct of physics in action. Science confirms the door is open. History suggests someone might have already walked through it. Let's briefly revisit the initial inconsistencies. The 1,941 traveler, whose clothing screamed 21st century. The woman in 1928, casually using a device unknown to her generation. The 1,870 seconds gentleman, rocking the printed shirt and modern specs. John Teeter's strangely precise, yet ultimately unfulfilled, timeline warnings. And Tesla's secret obsession with conquering the flow of time itself. Each instance challenges the linear narrative we accept as fact. What if these were not mistakes, but deliberate, minor adjustments? Visualizing the sheer number of historical records we have to sift through. Are we witnessing echoes of temporal displacement? Or are we simply excellent at projecting our modern views onto old evidence? The truth, as always, lies hidden in the details. We continue our journey into the strange artifacts. The tomb watch remains a stunning anomaly. Foo Fighters haunted the skies during humanity's greatest conflict. Ancient computation baffles modern engineers. The evidence is everywhere if you know how to look. But what about the more obscure, yet compelling cases? We move into the less famous, but equally potent, proof points. These are the footnotes of history that the textbooks ignore. Each one is a tiny tear in the fabric of time. Let's examine the case of the Egyptian mummy with a startlingly modern haircut. The preservation methods were extreme, yet the appearance seems curiously contemporary. A quick, strange footnote before we move to physics. Case 11. The Egyptian mummy's modern haircut. Skeptics suggest natural mummification preserved the hair in an unusual way, but the uniformity is suspicious. Case 12. The Piri-Reis map anomaly. This map depicts Antarctica without ice cover, knowledge only obtainable via modern aerial surveying. The counter-theory suggests it was compiled from older, perhaps Atlantean, sources. Case 13. The sudden appearance of modern plastics. Finding industrial plastics in layers dated hundreds of years before mass production began. Could contaminants from future excavations be settling into older strata? Case 14. The man who knew too much. Witness accounts describing individuals casually discussing future world events that hadn't occurred yet. Case 15. The modern look of medieval art. A detachment in the eyes that seems far removed from the religious focus of the era. Case 16. Unexplained sonic booms before jets. Newspaper archives recording loud, thunder-like sounds long before supersonic flight was feasible. Case 17. The sudden rise of impossible metallurgy. Artifacts showing homogeneity, achieved only through industrial vacuum casting. Case 18. Photographic ghosts in motion. While motion blur is normal, this figure seems to occupy zero physical space compared to others. Case 19. The sudden appearance of complex mathematics. Advanced concepts, appearing in remote cultures with no known contact. Case 20. The self-correcting history theory. Some believe time travelers must correct their mistakes, leading to minor historical glitches. These adjustments are too small for macro history, but visible in fine details. The sheer volume of evidence demands more than simple dismissal. We are dealing with documented facts, not folklore. Each photo, each artifact, is a question mark stamped onto the official record. The physics allows it, the history hints at it. The tools are becoming sharper, the questions louder. The modern watch in the 1940 seconds seems less like an error and more like an intended clue. If they wanted to remain hidden, why leave such obvious breadcrumbs? Perhaps they are testing our ability to see beyond the conventional narrative. The history books are merely the first draft. It's time to consider the second draft, the one written by those who travel between the lines. These anomalies are not isolated. They form a pattern of temporal infiltration. The future has been observing the past for a very long time. And they might not even be trying to hide anymore. The evidence is concrete, but the intention remains shrouded in mystery. We must analyze the final implications of these temporal intrusions. The physics is the possibility. The sightings are the proof. The question is no longer if time travel is possible, but who is using it. And what are their true objectives in our past? We have seen the proof. Now, you must decide. Are these just coincidences, or undeniable proof that time travelers have already walked among us?